Hi guys, welcome to week 2 of the Create Kickstart program, and today we're going to be talking about creating your unique plan. Before you start watching the video, make sure you've downloaded all the documents from the email and have them ready to fill in either on paper and pen or just on your computer ready to fill in. I'm going to pause the talk at various points so you can actually complete the things as we go, because we're going to talk about goal setting a lot, which is something that people tend to skip over. So I really want to make sure that you take this next 20 minutes or so to really complete the exercises and make sure we do it. Also make sure you've downloaded or clicked on the video link that I've put in the email, so that's ready to go and ready for you to watch. Now just load it up so that it's loaded, but don't watch it yet, just so that when you do get around to playing it, it's already downloaded the whole video, and so it doesn't have to kind of buffer and wait for it. And as long as we've done that, we will crack on. If you haven't, just hit pause for a second, go and do those things, and then come back again. So I'm just going to recap on the objectives of the program. First of all, it's to give you the most bang for your buck changes to see results without too much sacrifice. It's to understand what the most effective lifestyle habits are. It's to teach you the effect of certain foods on the body and give you alternative suggestions, so instead of dieting, you can make informed choices. We want to get you in control of positive habits and freedom from cravings and hunger. We want to get clarity on your goals and motivation, which is the real focus today. Turbocharge your willpower, that's more next week. And tune into your personal lifestyle needs and implement the positive habits you need in a realistic way. So this is based on a lot of common problems with diets. First of all, there's a trade-off between physical, mental and the spiritual effects of a particular diet on your body. Now, I'm going to talk about spiritual effects a few times over the next 3 or 4 weeks, but we don't want to confuse it with any kind of religious connotations or any kind of esoteric stuff. It's not any airy-fairy stuff. Basically, I would say your spirit is who you are, what you believe in terms of personal values, what you enjoy doing, what you enjoy spending your time doing, who you enjoy spending your time with, all of that sort of stuff. That's what I would call your spirit. Now that's really important, because let's take, for example, if one of your core values is spending time with your family, and part of that time together was going out, enjoying really nice meals, or maybe big family get-togethers where you eat loads of food, drink loads of nice drink, and your diet plan didn't allow for that, then essentially you're following a plan that is really in conflict with your spirituality and your spirit. And again, I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy, but hopefully you see the simplicity of this. If the plan doesn't allow you to do the things that you enjoy in life, okay, we're not talking about the things like kind of, oh, I enjoy a bit of cake every now and then. We're talking about the things that really you feel make you who you are as a person, spending time with friends, family, things like that. So if any plan conflicts with that, then you're really going to struggle, because you're going to feel the effects of not being able to do these things. So for example, if that was something that was a regular thing, like once a week, let's say you had a real big family get together that ended up with a real knees up, probably consuming more calories than normal, that's cool. It's just we've got to make sure that then the rest of your plan kind of compensates or allows for that. It might be that we use the kind of 5-2 diet, kind of intermittent fasting thing. So we accept that you're going to have one big blowout in the week with your family, and you don't want to have to sacrifice that. So we make sure that there's 1 or 2 days in the week where you maybe have a reduced calorie approach. It's only the lifestyle elements that dictate what the plan is best for you. Whether it's a 5-2 diet, whether you do low carb, all these other things, yes, they have physical effects, but that's not really the main reason to choose them. So really what we're looking for is a successful program will accommodate all of these things, the physical, the mental and the spiritual. Another problem with diets is they need to be individualised based upon your genetics, goals, circumstances and current destination. It must be something you can continue to apply forever, and most diet plans obviously aren't individualised and are just a short-term stopgap solution. Another thing is, and this links in with the trade-off thing, the physical effects might be contrasting. So for example, you could follow a program that increases your fat burning, but also it reduces your metabolism. Now, one of those factors is positive, the other is negative. One you might do for a short-term positive result, aware that the long-term effect might not be so good and we have to change later on in the future. Another approach might reduce your calorie balance. For example, you might reduce your calories, as simple as that, but it leads to an increase in hunger. And that's kind of working against you in terms of getting long-term results. So again, we need to follow a plan that kind of allows us to get all of the positive effects and reduces some of the negative effects. And that's where it needs to be individualized. So the biggest problem with most diet plans, however, is anytime you follow someone else's plan, you will experience resistance. And this can either be to a lack of understanding of what you need to do, or just because it doesn't fit in with your personal needs. It hasn't considered your lifestyle, what time you have to get up and go to work, whether you've got to cook for the family, whether you've got kids. All sorts of these things needs to be considered. Now that doesn't mean we throw the baby out with bathwater. It just doesn't mean we don't follow a set diet plan religiously unless it also accommodates every other aspect. Essentially what we're going to do with you is we might take a common diet program as a starting point, and we're going to fine tune it to fit in with your lifestyle. So I've already just half given away the create solution, but it's to teach you the effect of certain foods on your body. And we talked last week about things that inhibit your health and fat loss. Today I'm going to run through a few things that enhance your fat loss. And when you understand that, you can make informed choices. Then we're going to provide you with ideas for the meals that are focused on the foods that will enhance your results. And will help you to identify your current lifestyle needs and mould a plan that will suit. From there, we'll work on developing a healthy lifestyle mindset. So the key thing is we're being proactive in terms of not just avoiding things. We're making the difference between avoiding foods because that's part of the plan and we're kind of avoiding things that we're told not to eat and that are bad for us, versus just learning and understanding what the good things are and making sure that our meal plans are packed full of all the good things, so we're not even thinking about the other stuff. Essentially, we're avoiding bad food by default rather than by design. So just to recap on what those inhibiting foods are. So we talked about gluten and dairy, we talked about processed foods, and we talked about having too many carbohydrates, but also too little can be a problem. So this is an individual thing that we need to talk about at a future date. Alcohol we talked about last week, and we also talked about individual triggers. So for example, foods you might be intolerant to. So I want to touch on why we'd consider the fat loss foods. And I'm not going to give you specific examples, but just general ideas for now. So really we consider any food to be a fat loss food if it has a high ratio of protein to carbohydrate, if it has a high ratio of water to carbohydrate. So for example, a soup, as long as it's not kind of a flour-based or potato-based soup, a soup would tend to have a very high water to carbohydrate ratio, even if you don't have the protein. So again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Yes, we'd like you to have more protein, but from a fat loss point of view, if you're having soup for lunch, then that certainly ticks the box of high water to carbohydrate ratio. You don't need the protein to make that into a fat loss meal. The only reason we would advocate protein in that scenario is without the protein, you're more likely to be hungry sooner. So that's the key thing with protein. But that doesn't mean that a soup is not a fat loss food. You'd definitely be a good fat loss food as long as you don't get hungry too quickly and need to eat. Hopefully that clarifies that point. So the next thing would be high fiber. The next thing would be high fiber to carbohydrate ratio and also high fat to carbohydrate ratio. They're all kind of classifications of foods that will really enhance your fat loss hormones, if we like. Now there's one final thing that I would look at, and that would be a high fullness to calorie ratio. Now this might be a bit individual to you, but we're talking about per calorie, how much does a food fill you up? So for example, calorie by calorie, a chocolate bar or a biscuit or a chocolate muffin probably doesn't really fill you up that much per calorie. Whereas a chicken breast or a very high fibre food will probably give you a lot more satisfaction per calorie. You could eat more of it, more volume, without having too many calories, and it will keep you going for longer. So that's the other thing. If most of the foods you eat tick any of those boxes, then you're going to do okay. So now we're going to move on to the most important part of today, which is goal setting. And essentially, setting a goal transfers an intention from your conscious mind to the subconscious mind. And therefore it makes you proactive rather than reactive. And again, it's the difference between kind of waking up in the morning with just an intent to be good versus waking up with a positive plan of how you're going to be good. It prepares you mentally for what's required. So again, if you know what's ahead, if you know the challenges you're going to face, as well as what you need to do to overcome them, you're much more likely to succeed. And if you know where you are and what your destination is, you can't fail to hit that target. It might take some people longer than others. You might need to reset your course more often or less often, but you'll get there in the end. Now, being prepared to write your goal out and read it itself every day is a really good test of your commitment. If you're thinking, I can't write my goal down, I'm not going to write my goal down, then I'm going to question, are you ready to achieve that goal? Do you really want that goal enough? What's the resistance? Because essentially writing a goal down just makes you accountable to yourself to do that. So I'd like to think that you're ready and willing to write down your goals so that you can read them out to yourself every day. Now, if you take it a step further and are willing to share it with someone, then that's an even better test of your commitment and gives you even more accountability. Now, this is how goal setting works. It actually works by a system in the brain called the reticular activating system. Now, the reticular activating system is responsible for what we call the cocktail party phenomenon, where you might be at a party and all of a sudden you hear, or you think you hear your name from across the room, and you kind of notice that. You didn't hear what was going on before that, you didn't hear anything else that was said before that, you just heard your name, and because that's relevant to you, your brain focuses on it. So we're bombarded with so much information today that we need something that's going to filter out that information and kind of stop our heads from exploding, if you like. Something that's deciding what information we actually can process and focus on and attend to versus what we just don't bother with. And another really good example of how this might work, for example, would be if you had been thinking about a holiday and maybe booking yourself a holiday round about now. If you've had that conversation maybe with your partner or your family, I guarantee that if you start going out or you're watching the TV or whatever it is, reading a magazine or a paper, you'll notice the adverts for holidays. You'll notice the articles that are about holiday destinations. You'll pick up a news report about something about holidays. Because by having that conversation, you've made the holiday subject one that's relevant to your brain. And your reticular activating system will start to look for that and think, right, that goes in, that gets in and we attend to that. Whereas other things, it won't. Or before you thought about the holiday, you've probably driven past the same adverts. You may have even read the same magazine and not noticed that advert at all because at the moment it wasn't relevant to you. Hope that makes sense. What we're going to show you is the video. So go back to the email. Hopefully you've already started to load the video up. What I want you to do is watch the video now and then come back and we'll carry on discussing that. Okay, so I'm going to give you, just hit pause right now. I'm going to give it a bit of a delay before I talk about the next subject so I don't give the video away. So hit pause and then I'll see you when you've watched the video. Okay, so what did you think? Now, believe it or not, about 75% of people don't actually notice the gorilla at all. Hopefully that's not giving it away because you did hit pause and go and watch the video. And basically, because you've been given the task of counting the passes and you've focused on that and you've attended to that, you didn't notice the gorilla. Now, you're watching a computer screen. You will have seen the gorilla, like that's passed through your visual field. You just don't notice it. So it goes to show exactly how much you don't realise, don't notice, don't think about unless you've planned and prepared to actually focus on something. Now that can work both positively and negatively for us. Essentially what it means is we get to decide what your brain focuses attention on. So you get to decide what your brain is looking out for in terms of things that will help you. So if you're deciding, I'm going to eat very healthy, I'm going to really get into eating salads and stuff like that, you might happen to see a really nice salad recipe in a magazine that really fits your goals, or you might see it online. You might see some Facebook posts of healthy food ideas that have always been there, but you just haven't focused your attention on it. So that's how it can really help you. The other side is that the brain doesn't distinguish between a positive or a negative. It just focuses on the idea in itself. So for example, if your focus is on not eating unhealthy food, unfortunately what that means is you will still focus on unhealthy food. You will still see the adverts for McDonald's or whatever. You'll still notice things. You'll still see something in the supermarket. Maybe it's a new food that they're bringing out, a new chocolate bar or a new cake or something like that, that your brain just straight away thinks about, because it's focusing on unhealthy food. And even though it's focusing on not eating it, it still gives you the awareness of it, because it's like, here, these are the things that you're not supposed to eat. Of course, you know, how strong is your willpower when that happens? Basically, we don't want to be focusing on the things that we don't want. We want to focus purely on the things that we do. And we only do that by setting a positive goal, and that sets that reticular activating system to work. Hopefully that makes sense. So following on from that, not distinguish between positive and negative, is our self-talk. So if we've set the goals of what we don't want, we're much more likely to have the negative self-talk about things. Also, if we haven't set the intention of the things that we do want, we're more likely to kind of talk negatively to ourselves. Why are we doing this? Oh, just do this instead, just do that. We're more likely to pick up on the negative comments that other people say, rather than picking up on the positive things and the supportive things that people say. So next thing, again, just after I've run through this slide, I went to hit pause. I went to go and complete the goal setting sheet that's in the email. So we want to see, what is your ultimate result? What difference would it make to your life? How will it change how you feel about yourself right now? How will you reward yourself for achieving that goal? What date do you expect to achieve the goal? Now, you need to be realistic about that. Now, some people it might be an open-ended goal, or for some it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be 3 years. It doesn't matter. You might think, right, I need to lose a stone. I'm not going to go mad. I just want to make constant progress, and as long as in the next year I'm moving towards that goal, I'm happy with that. It's absolutely fine. You get to dictate, and it's got to be realistic about things that you're doing. You know, if you're like Dan and us on 6 stag do's this year, then the chances of you really making inroads, you know, if you wanted to lose 4 or 5 stone, are probably a bit challenging, because pretty much every couple of months you're going to have a big kind of blowout. So make it realistic to what's coming up for you and what your current lifestyle is like. Now, when you've done that, I'd also like you to consider what you'd like to achieve in the next 3 weeks on this program, and you know, how, especially with a view to kind of things that you would like to carry on after this program's finished. So just hit pause again and go and fill that sheet in. Might take you 10-15 minutes, that's fine. Just really set aside that time right now. It'll be really, really important, and I guarantee doing this will make your chance of success so much greater. Okay, now you've done the goals, we want to recognise what your barriers are. Now, your barriers are really the ongoing challenges that you face, the things that are making it difficult for you to do the positive habits that you think you should. Now, these could be social, physical, they could be related to your lifestyle, they could be related to your career. I'm going to put some up in a second as examples while you actually go and fill in the thing. So these are things that are stopping you from achieving your goal. And it might be things that have stopped you in the past, it might be things that are going on right now. And by recognising the barriers, we can then start to think about what actions can you take to overcome the most significant barriers that you face. So I'm just going to leave this slide here so you can have a look at it. Just want you to hit pause now, and I want you to complete that sheet on the barriers, and just use this slide as a guideline. But of course, it might not be any of these, it might be things that aren't on the list. So I want you to go and use that, fill that sheet in now, and then come back in a few minutes when you've done that. Okay, so having done that sheet, now here are some example solutions that I've suggested, obviously not knowing what your personal barriers are, but here are some solutions to a few of those. And I'll probably discuss more of these in some emails coming up as well. So if you need to press pause and just add a few of these to your list of solutions, then go ahead. What I'd really love, guys, is for us to jump on the Facebook group, share some of the barriers and share some of the solutions so that we can all learn from each other. I think that's really going to benefit everybody. Okay, now we've recognised the barriers and some solutions, I want us to plan the positive habits. So that's the third sheet and the final sheet for you to fill in. Now the first thing I want you to list down is any positive habits that you're already familiar with. So up to 5, doesn't have to be 5, but up to 5 habits that maybe you've done before, you know you can do, and basically is going to have, you can do without any resistance or any reluctance. If you feel negatively about doing it, I don't want to see that on the list. I want things that you're quite happy and comfortable to do right now. Just take a couple of minutes to write them down and then come back to us. So hit pause right now and then back when you're ready. The next thing I want you to do is write down one new lifestyle habit that you're prepared to introduce that you might not be as comfortable with, but you're willing to stretch yourself just for one new positive habit. Think about the thing that maybe is going to make the biggest impact to your results right now over the next couple of weeks, and something that you're prepared to do for the next couple of weeks. Now, as well as that, I want you to write down how you will ensure that you apply this habit. So, for example, if your habit is to drink 2 litres of water, how are you going to go about it? Are you going to buy your week's supply of water every Sunday ready to take to work? You know, you're going to buy 10 1-litre bottles. Are you going to get a couple of water bottles that you can fill up from the filter every day and drink through? Are you going to set an alarm, for example, on your phone every hour to say, have you drunk any water this hour? Are you going to set a screensaver up? Anything that you feel you should do to make sure you apply the habit, I want you to write down. Because again, we're all about being proactive in all the things we need to do. So hit pause, take a couple of minutes to go and do that, and then come back. Okay, great stuff. So the final thing I want you to do is think about what future habits you feel you need to adopt. So these might be things that right now you don't feel comfortable with changing. Maybe you know you have to eventually, but you just don't feel ready to right now. But by writing those positive changes, and I want you to write them in the positive, not the negative. I don't want these to be, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to avoid that. I want to hear the things that you are going to do. Because then, again, even if you don't feel comfortable with it right now, by incorporating it into your goals, you're almost preparing your mind and preparing your mindset to start to take action on them. We're not going to hold you accountable to them right now, so you don't need to feel any kind of sense of failure or anything like that. These are things that you say, right, I'm not ready to do right at this moment in time, but perhaps at some time in the future that I will. And because you've already spent the time to think about what that needs to be, the whole process is going to be easier. So again, just hit pause, go and do that, and then come back. Okay, great. So just going to do some homework, guys, which I'm going to email out as well over the week, just check up on you. So first of all, I want you to make sure you've completed the goals and barriers in as much detail as you can, as well as those kind of habits you need to incorporate. Now I'm going to send you an email in a few days, just as a little reminder to review this and think about any changes that you would make. Is there anything you've thought about in the last few days? Is there anything you've seen? Maybe that reticular activating system gets to work and supplies you with some good ideas and some good solutions. So I want you to review it and do it again. I also want you to then send it to me or post it on the Facebook page, guys, so we can all hold each other accountable and support each other on these things. Now I've sent you a habit tracking sheet in an email, and I want you to fill that in with all those habits that you've agreed to do right now, and actually keep an account of them, keep tracking them. I'll send you instructions for that, so that we're keeping account of our positive habits. So what's next? So next week's session, we're going to do a detox program, and I'm going to give you information about that along the way, because essentially what I don't want the program to be is about what not to do. I want it to be about all the positive choices and meals and stuff that you can have. We're going to talk about supercharging your willpower as well, and all the things you can do to take willpower out of the equation. So you can never say, oh, I can't lose weight because I just don't have the willpower. We're going to make it irrelevant. So that's on Tuesday, January the 27th, 6:30, same time, same place. Hopefully I'll see you there, guys. I think you'll always get more out of attending it in person than from the video, because I'll make sure that we're actually doing the work we need to do at the time, whereas hopefully you haven't today, but you might have skipped some of the exercises I've asked you to do. But if you have skipped them, guys, make sure that you do them, because I do want you to send them in, and I am going to be testing you. Okay, that's it for this week. Hopefully see you next time.